Hello everyone. Today I want to update my settings guide for Arc Raiders. I'll be showing you the most competitive settings for the game for Arc Raiders, and also a balance, let's say optimized version of the settings for whomever wants a more balanced graphic settings. So basically a balance between competitiveness and also eye candy. So basically if you still want to make your game look nice but still have a competitive edge, you'll get both versions in this video. So I'll be talking more about the settings that are more complex or more misunderstood in the Arc Raiders community. If I don't say much about a specific setting, then it means you can just copy the setting you see on the screen, and we can move on the ones that are more polarizing in the community. These are the settings in the gameplay section for me. On controls, these are my key bindings. Most of this stuff is preferential. I don't think there's anything, I don't know, more recommended or anything that would make your experience drastically better. But when it comes to graphics, there is some stuff that would yield a better gaming experience for you if you change it. Borderless full screen, I use this setting so I can alt tab really quick when I need to use any interactive maps or external resources while I'm playing the game. NVIDIA DLSS frame generation should be always disabled. I don't recommend anybody use frame generation, basically NVIDIA frame generation, because it affects input latency. You don't want lower input latency in any competitive or online multiplayer game. Many people think that if you have, let's say, I don't know, if you have 2x frame gen, you see a bigger number, so you'll be able to play better because your game is more fluid and stuff like that. That's a huge misunderstanding. In reality, when you activate 2 times or 3 times frame gen, your GPU actually works even harder to generate real frames. As you can see right now in the training map, I have 200 and something FPS. When I toggle on frame generation, let's say 2x frame generation, the number of real frames my GPU generates right now, it's actually less than what you've seen when I had this off, because the GPU, it's usually it's about 15 to 20% less performance, basically less raw FPS, real frames. And that is because about 15 to 20% of the compute that comes from the GPU is spent to generate fake frames. Basically, fake frames, and not render real frames that show real things happening in the game. Another misconception with NVIDIA frame generation is that you're gonna be able to react faster if you have this toggled on 2x or 3x to things in game. But that's very untrue, because you basically have fake frames that don't show anything related to the present information that's happening on the server side in Arc Raiders. So if someone's picking you, you won't see the newest frame that shows a player picking you around the corner. It's gonna first show one of the fake frames that in most cases won't show the most updated information from the server side in the game. So basically you'll get the information you actually need to receive, you'll get it later because of frame gen. Hence what I mentioned before, increased input lag. So I hoped I convinced at least 80% of you to keep this disabled. If I'm mumbling too much, or if I'll do my best to be more concise or clear with what I'm saying. I don't have a script. I'm just trying to explain why I chose the settings I chose, and also trust me, I have specifically for ARC Raiders, I have tens of hours of research. I've done tens of hours of research, and I've been optimizing games graphics for at least 15 years now. So I hope this will give you more confidence that what I'm saying here is probably well researched. Okay, VSync is disabled. I always recommend using NVIDIA Reflex low latency on, or on plus boost, depending on what your GPU allows you to select here. But if you have on plus boost, you can go for it. It's fine. Frame limit, you can do whatever. I usually limit my frame rate slightly below my refresh rate, but that's not mandatory for anybody. As you can see, I'm not anywhere near my maximum refresh rate. My monitor is 360 Hertz. Okay. If you have a mid-range to low-end computer, I recommend you guys use NVIDIA DLSS with quality, or even balanced if you can, if the clarity downgrade doesn't bother you. So if you're okay with the clarity that NVIDIA DLSS Balanced with transformer model, if it's fine for you, you can go for balanced. If you have a low-end computer, if you have a mid-range computer, you can go, or even a low-end computer, you can go with quality. If you go NVIDIA DLSS quality transformer, this should yield the most performance and the best looking game while still having a competitive performance on a kinda lower end computer. If you have a high-end computer like I do, I have an RTX 5080, then you can go with DLAA. I choose DLAA because it makes the game slightly crispier, and I enjoy that. We'll come back to these settings because later in graphic settings there will be a setting that has an interesting interaction with these. So I'll need to mention something regarding... I'll need to clarify something when it comes to some graphic settings, depending on what DLSS quality you're using, DLAA quality or balanced. But we'll get back to this in a second. Okay, field of view, I usually use the maximum field of view so I can see as much as possible. As you can see, there is a huge difference on how much information you receive on 70, so that's why I keep it on 80. Motion blur always should be disabled. NVIDIA RTX global illumination, I keep it on static because any other setting uses ray tracing. We don't want ray tracing because it's pretty inaccurate at lower settings. The lighting is pretty inaccurate at lower settings, and also it tanks performance a lot, so static is best for competitive settings. View distance should always be, you can leave this on custom because we're gonna change these settings manually. View distance should always be on low. Many people recommend different settings when it comes to view distance. I think there is only one right answer for competitive edge, which is low. You want it on low because the distance only affects objects in the world, not arc, not players. With view distance on low, you'll still be able to see players here, let's say, or even further away. It doesn't affect the render distance of arc and players, as I said. You want it on low because it will despawn or not render. As you can see, this rock, this is a good example of not rendering objects, foliage, rocks, things that might obscure players at medium to long range. So this is why you want to keep it on low, because if someone was hiding behind this rock, let's say, or any bushes that don't render, you can see them. So that's why you want view distance on low. Yes, it's gonna be annoying because you'll have a lot of pop-in, as you can see, multiple things pop in. But if you have people hiding behind these rocks, let's say, or if here you would have if you would have had any bushes or these trees, you can see them not rendering. You can see people much clearly at long distance. The pop-in might be annoying, and if it's annoying to you, you can go for medium or something like that. But I'm not willing to compromise on visibility when it comes to gameplay, so I'll keep it on low. This is the most competitive setting for view distance. Anti-aliasing, as long as you're using NVIDIA DLSS, DLAA, quality or balanced, it doesn't affect the anti-aliasing in the game. If you don't use NVIDIA DLSS and use other upscaling methods, it's still not gonna do anything for you. So this doesn't really matter as long as you're using an upscaling method, and you should, because it gives you a lot of performance, the upscaling method, that is. Okay, shadows. This is one of the more misunderstood settings in the game. I'll show you in a second what it does. For most competitive setting, if you have the horsepower, because shadows on high, it will affect your computer's performance. I keep it on high because it gives you more visibility in low light areas. Basically, when you have areas that are lit by artificial sources of lighting, let's say neons or spotlights or stuff like that, as you can see here. This is an area that's lit by some neons on the, as you can see. With shadows on low or medium, you won't see people hiding in here because this area is not gonna be lit. I'll demonstrate to you in a second. As you can see, this area has way less lighting in it, and this is not one of the really bad spots. There are places on maps and inside buildings that are even way darker than this. So if you go with high, you'll have way better visibility in low light scenarios that are artificially lit. Okay, post-processing. This is, I think, the second most misunderstood setting in the game. I'll find some bushes and show you. Basically, I prefer using post-processing on medium, and I recommend you do the same as long as you're using NVIDIA DLSS DLAA Transformer. Why? Because post-processing also gives you some sharpening and also activates the least expensive form of ambient occlusion. As you can see, when I turn it to low, it basically turns off ambient occlusion. And if you pay real close attention to the markings on this metal container, you can see that the sharpness increases. There's many examples of this that I can show you. I'm just trying to explain what this setting does. So basically you activate ambient occlusion, it creates more contrast, the game looks better, and also you have a slightly more sharpness. If you want the most competitive setting, in my opinion, while using DLAA, I'd recommend post-processing medium because it makes the image slightly sharper and it gives you more contrast. Otherwise, I'd recommend post-processing on low if you're gonna use quality or balanced. And that is because, as you can see already, you have a lot of shimmering on bushes while using balanced or quality. NVIDIA DLSS quality transformer. And if I turn off post-processing, you'll have way less shimmering. See, medium, you have more shimmering with the setting that I've been using with DLAA. and with it on low it's much better, as you can see. This is not the perfect example. Here you can see the shimmering. It's because of ambient occlusion, of how the upscaling method deals with ambient occlusion. So if I turn it off, the image is much more stable. Okay. But because I'm using DLAA, I prefer, as you can see, with DLAA it's not as bad. If you want even less shimmering, you can turn it off. But as I said, I like the slight increase in sharpness and contrast to my image. So for competitive settings, shadows on high if you have the performance, post-processing on low if you're using quality or balanced DLSS, or keep it on medium if you're using DLAA. Next up is texture. For the most competitive setting, I recommend this on low. Texture only affects anisotropic filtering, not texture resolution. So if you keep it on low, you'll have less clutter, less fluff on your screen. You're gonna be able to spot players better with this setting, and also it will give you about 2% more performance. That's not a huge boost in performance, but I'm just telling you what's the performance impact that you can expect from this setting. If you want a balance between quality, basically visual fidelity, and competitive settings, I'd recommend high. High will impact your performance by 1%. Epic will impact your performance by 2% when compared to low. So I'd recommend high for, let's say, optimized settings, and low for competitive settings. Effects should always be kept on low. It has a huge performance impact. Always should be set to low. Reflections has a minimal impact to performance on the medium setting. For most competitive settings, I recommend low. For a balance in visual fidelity, for optimized settings, let's say, I recommend medium. Foliage should be always set to low, because it affects the render distance of some foliage. Basically, keeping this on low will allow you to spot players much easier at distance, the same as with view distance. Global illumination resolution has a moderate impact on performance and no impact on visual fidelity, so I recommend this to be kept on low always, no matter what, for competitive settings and optimized settings. In game overlay, it shows you, it displays FPS. These two we can keep enabled. This is basically it with the graphic settings. I hope the suggestions I made are clear, and it will help you to choose the best graphic settings that are appropriate for your computer and for your gaming experience. In audio, I highly recommend night mode. This basically compresses the highs and the lows in your audio, basically the volume. The dynamic range in your audio is way more compressed. The quieter sounds will be louder, the louder sounds will be quieter. This will enable you to hear footsteps and people much easier. This was a game changer for me when I turned it on. These are the rest of my audio settings. Most of this stuff is preferential. Make sure you turn off radar voice, because this uses basically it creates an AI voice, a large language model AI that changes your voice. And in accessibility, I recommend turning this off. This is one of the competitive settings that I recommend you change. This will basically make your cursor, when your gun is obstructed by something, it will make your cursor, as you can see, your arrow, it moves instantly, and it shows you that you're not gonna shoot where you're supposed to shoot. And the fact that it changes instantly, it's important. It's gonna help you in fights and stuff like that. If you turn it on, it's gonna be, the transition is gonna be slower. As you can see, the animation, you have an animation to the transition, and it's not as quick. So that's why I keep it on off. Crosshair shape, you can copy mine if you feel like you like it. Center dot radius, I keep it on 1. Some people like it on 2. This is also pretty nice. This, in my opinion, it's a must. You should turn it on, so you have the dot in the middle. That helps you a lot with aiming. You can choose whatever crosshair you want. I have this one turned on, so I can have the same crosshair on all guns I'm using, all the guns I'm using. These are my settings. Mouse and keyboard, those are my sensitivities, and this is basically it. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments. I'll make sure to answer as quick as possible. If there will be any additions to my explanations here, I leave them down in the comments. I'll pin a comment with more information or details. This should be the most up-to-date, let's say, guide for settings in Arc Raiders. I've done a lot of research. This should be a definitive version of settings for the game. I think most people should use one of the things one of the settings I recommended, the versions, either the competitive or the optimized versions. So yeah, have a good day. Thank you for watching. I hope you found all this information useful. Bye bye.